Coach. We heard Mackay was standing out a punt return. Is it realistic to expect him to do both?
I mean, I think with a guy like him, anytime you can get the ball in his hands, you want to do it as many times as possible. You know, to try to take some off of him, we'll rep a couple guys there. It is realistic that he'll do it at some point this season, whether he starts there or we just plug him and play him when we need him to play there. But there's a couple other guys that have emerged in that role as well.
What stood out about Caden initially, a kicker, and what do you maybe need to see more of from the kicking game this year?
You know, that's been one of our weaker spots the last few years as far as just, you know, field goal percentages and all those things. But, you know, what stood out about him is, you know, he's a freshman, so he's got 3 more years to play. And so, you know, anytime you bring in a guy like that, you don't have to recruit a kid necessarily as long as he's performing well. And, you know, so that stood out. And then the big kicks he's made in games. I mean, he played in some cold games. He played in some rain games. He's traveled all the way to Hawaii, so he's traveled a long ways away to play in games, which is what we do in the Big Ten. So a lot of those things stood out in that sense. And, you know, we had a prior relationship recruiting him. He had come to the camps here and all that stuff. So I'd seen him kick live plenty of times. And so those were the things that why we ended up going that route.
Is that still open competition, or are you still looking at
you know, those guys are still competing. You know, I'm not ready to sit here and just say who's playing, name a starter here, name a starter there. At the same time, I'm also not afraid to play one guy field goal, one guy kicking off, one guy punting. So, you know, you could see that. You know, with the talent that Ryan brings, he can push the other two guys at the other two spots. You know, I anticipate all those guys playing throughout the year.
What's the punter competition looking like? Is Sam standing out there?
Sam, you know, he had a good day the other day, so he's kind of emerged a little bit there. But, you know, still Ryan's still pushing him, and you know, he's very talented, like I said. But, you know, with him doing all three things, you know, he doesn't have as much time to work as some of the other guys on a specific skill. But Sam's emerged a little bit there, yeah.
You know, you have your established guys, you know, at special teams. Is anyone newcomer or transfer that's kind of stood out?
Yeah, no, there's a long list of them there. I'd have to pull out my depth chart to look at them. But, you know, some of the new guys like Matai, the linebacker, Kennedy Erlacher, Tanook Hines, Corey Sims, some of those new guys. You know, I expect them to play for us on special teams this year and be a core part of it.
What is it that makes Mackay such an ideal returner?
I think the confidence he has back there, that's part of it. And then the biggest piece to be a great returner is decision making. And, you know, if you make the right decisions, it's usually going to end well for you. And then just his ability to explode after he catches a ball and that change of speed that he has and that initial, you know, burst that he gives to make the first guy miss. You know, because traditionally, you know, as a returner, that's what you got to do. You got to make the first guy miss. And after that, you know, he takes care of the rest.
He had some big returns last year. Was that just obvious, like right away once you see him start returning stuff? Like this guy's got a natural talent.
No, he's one of those guys that makes me look good. I mean, you can go watch all the film. Sometimes we block it up perfect and he takes it a long way. Sometimes we don't touch anybody and he still takes it a long way. And then, you know, you look at the one game where, you know, his biggest return, I think it was against Rutgers last year, where we had a boundary return and he took it to the field for 80 yards. So, I mean, sometimes that happens. And, you know, he has the vision to see that, and that's what makes him so dynamic back there.
We've seen Lincoln, you know, spending some time with special teams during the individual periods while they're stretching everything.
Yep.
We know him for his offensive mindset, but what's he like kind of working with him from a special teams perspective?
I mean, I've said it to anybody, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And the fact that he can have his hand in so many different things and still be an elite play caller and an elite head coach. I mean, he understands every facet of special teams that we're doing. He knows our punt scheme. He knows our punt block schemes. He knows all the kickoff schemes. So we have staff special teams meetings every day. He sits in every one of them. He knows what's going on, and he's very involved and hands-on on all the things that we do special teams-wise.
How does that speak to, like, just the overall increased importance of special teams?
Well, I think it helps because the staff sees it that way. And you know, obviously I can't do everything by myself on the field all at once. I have to rely on all our staff members. And so when the staff members see our head coach in the meetings, head coach involved in the scheme, it makes everybody better around us, so we get more out of your staff out here on the field. It makes them coach the special teams piece harder, not just their position groups.
How are you feeling about touchbacks now in fall camp compared to coming out of spring?
Pretty good. You know, those guys have you know, gotten a lot stronger this summer, and you know, have improved in that in fall camp right now. you know, obviously when you're replacing a guy like we had last year, with it's a fifth, sixth year senior, and now we're going to be playing a redshirt freshman or a sophomore if Caden's doing it, you know, you're going to probably be a little bit less, but I don't expect much of a difference there in the number that we're hitting now. Obviously, you hope you score as many points as possible. I think we'll have more kickoffs, so that'll be more opportunities for them to do it. But I'm really excited of what they've put on the field so far.
Let's do one more.
When you're looking to pick those guys who are the last line of defense to block the punter, what are you looking for in those guys?
So to block
Or
protect the punt?
To protect the punt.
You know, so we want bigger guys there. You know, we call it the shield, you know, or the wall. You call it whatever you want. We want, you know, some athletic guys there as well. The middle guy's got to be your biggest guy because he's protecting where the block point is. Two guys on the outside. You want to be a little more athletic, but also be big as well because, you know, if something gets out, you want them to have the ability to make the play or make a tackle. So that's kind of, you know, a short answer of what we're looking for there.
Thanks, Coach Dougherty.
All right.